Welcome to the Health Coach Collaborative podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the difference between coaching and consulting, and mainly for client retention and why it's important and what the differences are. Heather, I think you're probably the best one to get started on this topic.
Well, coaching and consulting are so different. They each have their own place, but a lot of people that have come through the nutrition programs have been taught the consulting framework. So does this sound familiar to you? You have a client that comes in, say they want to do meal planning. And so you take their information, you do their intake questionnaire, you formulate a plan, you make the recommendations, you may send them away with some information, have a follow-up session, you present all of your recommendations and plans, and then they go away and maybe you don't hear from them again and you're wondering why, right? So this happens all the time. We call it the one and done. If you compare that with coaching, so coaching is really meant to facilitate behavior change. And so we're supporting our clients to make the necessary changes they need to make in order to attain their goals. And so in this case, so say they wanted to incorporate different meals and healthier eating in their life. So in coaching, say you have a client that comes and they want to do the meal plan. So first of all, we're going to take some time to get to know them. Oftentimes when you're doing in that consulting or expert kind of framework, we go right into doing the analyzing. We're asking all of the questions, but we haven't really taken the time to get to know the client. And in coaching, Miller and Rolnick, who actually invented motivational interviewing, say you should take at least 10 to 15 minutes to get to know your client, and they should get to know you. So you have that rapport building and they feel more comfortable. So then when you bring the coaching session around to actually asking them questions, looking at their questionnaire, they're feeling a little bit more comfortable, right? And some of these questions can be very personal. For example, you may be talking about how many bowel movements they have in a day. So, if that's one of the first questions out of your mouth in a consulting appointment, it's like, oh, hi, how are you? How many bowel movements have you had today? That can put people off. But once you've established that rapport and they understand, why you're asking these questions, they'll feel more comfortable to talk about it. So in that coaching process, you may also find out beyond what they're looking at, say, come in for meal planning, there may be other areas of their life that they want to work on as well. So now you've gone from just having offering a meal planning service to offering other things as well. They may want to work on it, maybe quality sleep, adding in more movement. Maybe they're stressed and they need to have some ways to help manage their stress. So again, you've gone from just that offering the one service to expanding it out. And then you create that coaching program. So rather than being a one and done, maybe one or two appointments with the client, now you've got this coaching program. You've got maybe 12 weeks or whatever you set them up for, because they have a vision and a goal that they're working towards. So, and you're supporting them as the coach. The other big difference with consulting and coaching, and we talk about in our programs, consulting, you act as the expert. So you're the nutritional expert, you're disseminating all of this knowledge that you have and you're providing it. But think about it from the client's perspective. They're not having any input, right? They don't have any input into that plan. So are they invested in it? Is it going to work for them? Right? We're providing it based on what we think they need. What is it that they actually need? In a coaching session, you're going to find that out. You're going to explore, you're going to evoke what it is that they want, have them tell you, and then you can work together to make it happen. And that is the magic of coaching.
It's a great response. I think to talk about a little bit, obviously there's a massive benefit to the clients. My experience is that I left school with a consulting, more clinical approach to nutrition coaching And the more that I sat down with clients, the more that I realized that they actually did better with a coaching approach. And so I slowly did transition my services from a consulting kind of approach to a coaching approach, and obviously saw more success, got to know my clients really well. Referrals came from that, et cetera, et cetera. And I really built rapport. And a lot of my clients I consider friends now, even. And there is obviously some boundaries that you have to put in there as a coach, but you do gain such how do I put this, more of a genuine relationship with somebody, and you really do get to watch them transform, and that's more rewarding for us as coaches, I think, than the consulting approach, because you don't get to see the transformation necessarily if you're consulting with somebody. And if you do, it's not so connected. Anyways, that's my experience. But I think too that as a business thing, the longer time frame works better for us financially as well. And for me, it's not always about the finances, but we're in this to have a career. So it does allow you really to have a business on the long term, or in the long run. You sign up a client for a coaching package and you're with them for 3 months instead of just the meal plan, like you said. And so the financial side of it works out better for us as well.
Yeah. And what I find as well, Lynn, is that once they've had success and they in some areas, then they start to think about, what else can I do? Right. So even though they may have signed up originally for that 12-week package, as they're nearing the end, it's like you can start working with them to think, what other goals can they look at that they maybe not had thought about before, but now they've got some success under their belt and they're feeling more confident, and they want to work on other areas. So then, potentially you can be working with them for a longer period of time. There's no set limit with coaching. It really depends on if the coach wants to continue, if the client wants to continue, you can continue working on. And again, that's the magic of coaching. And when we bring it back to generating income, it really does work better for the nutrition practitioner.
Yeah, it's less paperwork too, and trying to find a client again and again and again and again is really, it's hard enough to find clients. I see this a lot, when I'm coaching business, that people end up stopping their practice altogether because trying to find repetitive clients is difficult. So the coaching method, I think there can be a hybrid of the two in your business. You can offer meal plans, you can do coaching, you can have a consulting kind of framework where it's a package of coaching plus meal plans plus anything else that you add into it. So it can be a hybrid approach. But for me personally, I don't offer anything but coaching now. Lisa, did you have anything you wanted to chime in on?
Yes, of course, because I am actually the opposite end of the spectrum now. Most of the consulting work that I do is through corporations, and time is a big factor. I don't have an hour or an hour and a half to spend with clients like I used to when I was strictly in private practice. And there is a big difference in the approach. I don't have 15 minutes with my clients to get to know them before I ask them about their bowel movements, because we have sometimes only a 20-minute consultation or a 30-minute consultation, and it's very clinical. It's very questionnaire oriented, checking off a bunch of questions, and then driving home the main points. And if they need more, then they'll follow up with me at another time for another 20 or 30-minute session. And it's a very big difference in the approach, contrasting with my private practice that I had a few years back, where I could offer a package and spend an hour and a half during the first consultation. It was such a big difference, because food especially is very emotional. We make eating choices not just based on what is healthiest for us. We make eating choices based on what we feel like eating, what mood we're in, what we're stressed about. I mean, how many times have we gone through an entire package of crackers or cookies before we even realize we're eating, right? So when you get to know your clients with a more coaching based approach, you are able to tap into the feelings the drives behind eating rather than just strictly the clinical stuff. And as Heather mentioned, starting with meal planning is a really great place to start because that's something very actionable. It's something they can do right away. When we introduce, say, a change in diet that's based on nutrients or supplementation, it may take several weeks, even several months to see a significant health change or see a significant benefit. But meal planning is something that we all have to do. So whether it's just, planning a Monday to Friday dinner menu or just suggesting having some extra leftovers from dinner to take to lunch the next day to save money and time and the stress of making those food decisions, that's a good place to start. And it really helps you connect with that person's lifestyle in a way that you wouldn't be able to if you were just strictly asking questions and receiving their answers. So the package is a great approach, not just financially for us, but also for the client, because they're not wondering how they're going to pay for every single session if they're coming to see you for hour or hour and a half long sessions every single time. So offering a package where there is a bit of a discount for the client, it's insurance for you that you've got them long term and you can really roll out your plan knowing how many sessions you have with that person. And then financially for them, they can budget for it. So it's a win-win. We were all taught the consulting approach. So when we started, this is what we knew, and we each had to learn the coaching part of it independently. And now I can't even see how the two can be separated. They are absolutely integral, and they need to be taught together.
I think that's a really fair point. And I think that the coaching, for example, I was thinking while you were talking, the coaching can turn into consulting almost, depending on what the client needs. For example, somebody comes to you and you put them into a package, for coaching, you work on the basics because most clients just need the basics. They need somebody to help them navigate where to make the biggest changes in their life and what they need, and teaching them how to tap back into themselves to be able to decide what it is that they need and know for sure that that's what they need. Are they too busy and too stressed out? That's really the coaching approach. But if somebody has, for example, a chronic illness or something that's more serious that needs investigation, I think then the clinical, more consulting side of things can come in, and we have the benefit of having both in our toolkit as nutrition coaches. And I think that that's a really valuable thing to have because you get client success, you feel fulfilled in your work. That was I said that I think earlier, but that was one of the biggest things for me when I was first starting coaching. I was consulting and I didn't get that feedback from my clients where it was like, I'm making big changes, I'm seeing lots of results. And that really demotivated me to be in coaching in the first place because I was going from the consulting approach, where as I started changing that mindset and mind frame for myself, everybody benefited, me included. Yeah, it's quite fun. Lisa, you said something earlier too about talking about being able to call ourselves, I think maybe it was Heather too that said this off call, but registered health coaching versus, the registered holistic nutritionist term that we were able to kind of take from our schooling, and how those terms have changed over time and how we can't actually use the registered holistic nutritionist term any longer. Who wants to dive into that part of it?
Well, I'll start because I found that really frustrating because I worked really hard, and I know everybody else did, to graduate and get that title of registered holistic nutritionist and the designation RHN, but now we can't use that title. We can't tell people what we are. We have to say we're registered holistic nutritional consultants, we're practitioners. We have to come up with some other title.
We've all worked really hard to finish our programs and to achieve a designation, but depending on what province you're in or what state you live in, you can't use certain designations or certain terms. So there are different designations depending on where you live and different limitations to how you can practice, again, depending on geography. Becoming a natural nutrition coach or a registered health coach, on the other hand, gives you a lot more access and more flexibility. So, and you have more options, and you can use that term or that designation consistently, regardless of where you are anywhere in the world.
I think that we're all in agreement that coaching needs to be part of a nutritional counselor or a nutrition coach or a registered holistic nutritionist toolkit. And we've been really careful while we were creating the Health Coach Collaborative's Natural Nutrition Coach program to make sure that people have the nutrition, physiology, symptomatology, coaching, and business all in one, in order to make sure that our natural nutrition coaches or our health coaches, if they decide to go for that designation, come out with the knowledge that they're going to need in order to have successful clients and a successful business. And so for anybody who has not done a coaching component in their nutrition schooling, let's say, I do think just adding the coaching module onto your belt or into your education is a worthwhile thing to do.
You're absolutely consulting with every single client, of course. The idea is to combine a coaching approach with your consulting. So you're still going through the process of asking about the person's diet, finding out about their chronic illness or imbalances, conducting a nutritional assessment, and then providing recommendations for nutrients and a menu based on whatever their specific symptomatology is or whatever their specific health requirements are. But you're doing it more as a collaboration with the client. So rather than the client telling you what the problem is and you just telling them what to do, you're communicating with the client. It's more of a partnership. And as you discuss it together, you work towards the goals, towards creating balance in both their diet, their health, and their life together, rather than you as just the expert. They're doing the work. And we always say that the client is doing the work, but as the expert, when we're just telling them what to do, it's kind of like we're telling them what to do and they're doing the work. But this way you're doing it together. It's a collaboration.
I'll add on to that too, in the sense that I'll just give a quick example of how I shifted my practice when I first started. So again, the consulting, taking questionnaires, assessments, telling them, and I have a very clear process on how to do this by giving them the questionnaires and the assessments before the intake process. So you do get to know them prior to sitting down with them. But then I would give a meal plan and say, okay, I'll follow up with you in a week or so. Here's, what you have to focus on. Here's the thing. But I never found that people stuck to that meal plan, first and foremost, which was interesting. And then when I started to change that consultation, that initial consultation, to be more like, okay, I'm going to take these assessments, find out what it is that is really holding them back, and then working on one or two things per week versus a whole revamp of their entire fridge. Because when you create a meal plan for somebody and you're doing it with nutrient recommendations and taking it into different foods, you could be introducing 30 new foods to them that they have never had before. When in reality, what you could be doing is just saying, okay, this is our main goal for this week, hammer that out, really solidify that practice and feel like it becomes a habit. And then when they're ready to move on from that thing, then add something else in so that it's not overwhelming for them. And I found that by doing that, for example, I had a client, I remember this guy very clearly. He wanted to lose 10 pounds, but he drank orange juice with breakfast, orange juice at lunch, orange juice at dinner, and then a couple glasses of wine. And he didn't realize, and I'm not big on counting calories, but he didn't realize how many extra calories that added into his day. And by switching that out just for water or something else, bubbly water with lemon or something, he was able to drop the 10 pounds, relatively easily just by changing that one thing. And it really stuck in my mind because I didn't need to give him this grandiose meal plan. I think they're very valuable. I did have a meal planning business. I'll just put that in there. But, I do think that sometimes it's just the small little changes, and it just takes that outside perspective to maybe make that really simple change.
Agreed. And the other thing that we've seen, especially for people just coming out of practice, is that they're creating some of these amazing meal plans, but maybe it's not what the client is looking for. And as Lynn mentioned, they're introducing so many different foods all at once. It also comes down to budget. Like, that's really expensive. So, I mean, that could be one of the reasons why people are challenged with these meal plans, is because it's not necessarily taking into consideration how expensive it is to make all of these changes. So by incorporating small changes here and there as you're going through, so instead of thinking of the meal plan as this huge redo, let's look at, oh, where are some opportunities? Maybe adding in some more salads, taking away that juice and adding in something else. So it becomes flexible and then changes as the client becomes more confident and is able to implement those changes as they're going through it.
All right, thanks for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe to our channel. If you want to find out more about our Natural Nutrition Coach program or our coaching modules, please head over to our website where you can find out more information. Thanks.